Hey guys, it's Miss Birds here, and we are continuing day 2 of our observational drawing. Now, yesterday I asked you guys to create a contour drawing of your hand, okay, in any position that you wanted. And remember, our contour drawing is essentially just a general line and an idea of where our form is. So remember, as we practice observational drawing, we made sure that our hand was placed somewhere where we could see it. Remember, we were just going through and you were supposed to be focusing more on your hand than on the paper. Okay, now you shouldn't have erased anything, so hopefully you didn't erase anything and that you just generally got the idea of what your hand should look like. Okay, so at this point, we're gonna start observing our hand again, okay, still continuing with our observational drawing. I'm gonna try and put my hand in generally like the same position that it was in from yesterday, okay, and I can see that it's generally looking the same. And then I wanna go in and I wanna observe, okay, where the creases are, right? So I'm looking at where my fingers bend, right? All of the creases for the knuckles. Okay, the areas here, because those are very large lines and those are going to be detail lines, right? Lines that show us the detail. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to start drawing some of these lines. And I mean, I don't have to draw them very dark, right? I can just kind of start by drawing them and kind of drawing in the lines at the top, right? We have tons of little lines. Or maybe that's just me because I'm old and my hands look wrinkly, but we have lots of little detailed lines. And I don't want you to draw what you think the lines look like. I just want you to observe the lines. Okay, which way are they going? Are they very straight lines? Do they have a slight curve to them? How far do they come down before they curve, right? So the whole idea is that we're looking at an object, okay? This object today being our hand. And we want to draw exactly what we see, okay? I don't want to draw lines on my fingers that I think are there. I want to draw the lines that are actually there, okay? And this is going to take some time. This is where we can go in and we can slowly start adjusting things, right? So I'm going to go and try and get the detail of the shape of my finger a little bit more. Okay, yesterday when I just drew my hand, I kind of just drew a bunch of lines, but I want to go in and I want to start putting in the details, right? So I'm looking at how far does my nail go down, right? And that's pretty good so far. I want to look at the curve of my fingertip, right? Because it kind of dips in just slightly here and then kind of goes up straight a little bit. So really just making sure at this point that I'm going in and I'm creating the details, right? I'm giving it some more life. So I'm going through and creating those details. So don't skip out on any of the details. Okay, the more details you have, the more realistic your drawing is going to look. And at this point, we can really start going through and adjusting the length of things, right? So like, I don't think my finger was as long as I really drew it here. So I can go back and I can erase some of it and really get in, again, the details of what I'm looking at here. So your job for today is to go through and you're gonna start drawing out all those details of your hand. Okay, just all the details. And we don't wanna do too much with shading. Okay, so don't shade anything really. If you wanna make some areas just like a little bit, give them a little bit of a darker outline, that's fine. But we're not really going to be shading anything until our next class, okay? So we're just going to do this drawing one little bit at a time, okay? Also, if you're wearing rings, somebody mentioned that in class, this would be a time where you can start putting in, you know, the ideas for the rings that you have, right? So I always wear that ring on my center finger, my middle finger, so I'm just going to go through and put in kind of just the general lines. I'm not going to shade anything yet, but I just want to recognize that that ring is there. Okay, and I'm just going to go through and continue to create those areas where the lines are. Okay, so again, I'm still looking at my hand. We want to make sure we're observing, right? Observing all of those lines, observing the small lines, observing the long lines, just observing everything. Remember, the more detail that you put in, the more interesting it's going to look, okay? So we want to make sure that our drawings are very detailed. Put in your nails. Okay, and you don't have to have long nails, right? But everybody has some type of nail. And depending on the position of your fingers, you're probably able to see that nail, right? So I can't see very much the way that my hand is angled, but what I can do is I can see just a bit of the top of it, right? So when you're putting in those lines, look and see how much space that you have here, right? I don't have very much space between where this side of my nail is and the very top of my nail up here. So we only see a small portion of it. So remember, we're drawing what we see, not drawing what we think it should look like, okay? Because those are two different things. So your assignment for today is to go through and to finish your contour drawing. I guess I should say not finish it, but you should be going and putting in some of the details. Okay, so we want to look at the details. We want to look at all of the little lines that are coming through. Okay, don't skip out on any of those little lines because all of those lines are details and they give us information. And the more information we put down on our paper, the more realistic it's going to look. So when you're done, you should have detail put into your hand. It should start looking more like a hand. And then tomorrow, we'll go, or then I should say not tomorrow, we're not meeting tomorrow, but the next day that we meet, we'll be going over how to actually put shading in to make it look more three-dimensional, okay?